Welcome to another episode of In the Know. Today we're going to be talking to one of the top title reps in the country, Ryan Lipsey, about how you can leverage your title rep to grow your real estate business and hit people from land, sea, and air. Looking forward to getting started. Sitting here today in the office with a good friend and business associate, Ryan Lipsey. We're going to be getting into some really cool stuff on how you can leverage your title agent to get more business, right? That's the premise of the show. How you can exploit guys like Ryan Lipsey to further grow your business. And he's got a lot of really cool stuff that we're going to dive into. We're also enjoying a couple beers. I've got a Corona Brewing Company Red Mermaid Ale. I want to thank the guys over at Seaside Market in Cardiff for hooking that up for us. It's really good. And Ryan's enjoying a double Diet Pepsi on the rocks.
That's my brand.
And why don't we start going off the yellow notepad here? How can agents work with title people like yourself to expand and grow their business?
It's a little bit of a tricky kind of service for direct, obviously for the consumer, but even for agents, because it's kind of innocuous and less accessible to most things in our space.
Right.
So obviously title, insuring the past on a property, the nuts and bolts, making sure liens and judgments are handled. That's title is title. You know, this one is as good as the other. It's your representative. It's your sales professional that you work with. You know, so you want to make sure you have the basics. You have a great underwriter. You have, a presence in the marketplace, and that you have a big company to take care of any issues that may come up in title. But the rest is, a spade is a spade, right?
So what are some of those things that come up, right? Because inevitably out there, people are doing deals and things that are unexpected can always come up, especially when you're dealing with title on a property. So like what are some things that you see, and how do you guys overcome those to kind of deliver maximum value to the client?
Very common are judgments, liens, infringement of property lines, that type of stuff. And we overcome those by clearing any obstacles to a clear title. The objective is when you buy a property to pass the buyer a clean bill of health when it comes to the title insurance. So that's what we do on a day in, day out basis. And we'll work with escrow companies to achieve that. How
can agents leverage you to grow their business, right? Because there's certain things back in the wild west days when title companies used to be able to throw their money around and wine and dine everybody. It was a much different animal back then, right? So now it's all about the service, and it's all about the data, and it's all about the ways that you can help agents grow their business. And so help connect the dots on how they can work with you to basically get more listings or get more buyers.
I think we touched on title insurance is apples, and I've been doing it, this is my 16th year, so I was around for some of those Wild West days. And you're right, with SB 133 came around and leveled the playing field, and the way I approach it is I need to solve agent problems and help agents overcome the obstacles in their business. So the question, how do you use your title professional to maximize your growth in your real estate practice? It's all about accountability. It's all about outreach campaigns. It's all about data, right? So how do we blend that all together to come up with an efficient business plan that you will execute, not just, have it up in the theory world, but actually have the rubber meet the road. So, you identify who, you identify what, and then you identify how. So who is the segment of the population I'm trying to hit, or my audience? What am I going to send them? And then what's the medium? Right? So many agents don't have time because there's inspections or escrows going sideways to sit down and chart that all out. So I put a business plan together to help them chart out how to go after your sphere of influence, how to go after your past client database, how to hit your farm, right? And hit them in multiple directions. Social media is such a pervasive new technology in our industry. We want to help them leverage that to get deals out of it and monetize it, right? Not just like what restaurant I'm at, but turn that into listings.
So then what are some things that they can ask you and what are some things that they shouldn't ask you, right? Like, don't ask your title rep for help with marketing dollars. Don't ask your title rep to print your swag and all your stuff that you want to pass out. What are some of the things that they can ask for, and things that you kind of provide as a title professional?
You know, don't ask them to pay for your dry cleaning or or pay your mortgage or anything like that. Those days were like probably gone in the 70s. But you know, you should ask, hey, what strategies do you have for me to get more repeat and referral business out of my database? That's a beautiful question, because like on my team, Alex and I, we go to Tom Ferry, Mike Ferry, Rick Ruby, Brian Buffini, Joe Stump, Craig Proctor. We're disciples of all those real estate coaches, so that I have real estate answers, right? Because like we have already established, title's title. So then what separates you is how I can help you overcome your challenges, right? I mean, whether it be recruiting, getting more listings out of my farm area, getting more referrals from my friends and family, executing a good Christmas party. What we can bring you is strategies that you may have not have considered. You know, that's why I make it my job to go learn all the best strategies, so that, because each personality is different, right? Some people want to lean into relationship selling. Right. Other people don't want to mess their relationships. They want to do all cold. Right. So I have to have answers for all of that.
That's really cool. So you study all of these different methods with the intention of being able to support people in growing their business. Yeah. How do you go about facilitating that? You're not actually coaching these people, right? What does that relationship look like? Are you meeting with them, helping them put a plan together, or what does that look like in terms of working with these agents?
Well, I initially start in a new client consultation. I'll sit with them and we first look backwards so that we can understand what lies ahead, right? So what does that mean? It means we diagnose where their last 10 transactions have come from, right? If 8 out of 10 came from their sphere of influence, we need to know that the fish are biting there, so let's drop more hooks, right?
Smart.
And then where does their passion lie, right? If they love Del Cerro and Allied Gardens, well, let's go after and get more business and get more outreach campaigns in the form of direct mail, email, call campaigns, bus benches, you name it. We put strategies together for them to get the brand out where they want to be working. Other people, they want to go after professionals like divorce attorneys, CPAs,
B2B
business to business. That's one of my specialties, is how I have a 3-step mechanism with, a letter, a call, and a pop by, so that they can start hitting, just get a certain numbers of professionals hit every week, so they can start getting a higher pull-through ratio. Right. And my goal is a year from the time when I meet with them, I want them to have at least 5 to 10 channel accounts, meaning they get multiple pieces of business from one source.
One cool thing about working with an experienced title rep, a guy like Ryan, is he's really well connected in the real estate space. So if you need something, if you need to talk to someone, if he doesn't know the answer, he probably knows the guy that knows the answer or gal that knows the answer, and is more than happy to make those connections for people. So one thing that we hear a lot with title reps is that they can get you data, right? They can get you the data. So what exactly, when people are asking you for data and looking for data, what are they looking for, and what are the kind of do's and don'ts in getting the data and marketing to the data?
Well, I mean, you get all kinds of different experience with agents, obviously. So there's some that aren't aware that we can get lists of names and addresses for people that live in any zip code or any given development. We can get you all ownership information with mailing, whether it be on-site mailing or if it's a rental of theirs and they have their mailing address in Vegas or something. We can do non-owner occupied. We can slice and dice ownership data, by property characteristics, by type of owner, all that stuff. I'm the hub of information, so an agent doesn't know where to go find. How do I get emails? We do know where to get it, and then they can put them in touch with that vendor, and they can connect directly. Yeah. But
there's all sorts of great data resources out there. Bin Verified is a great source. Cold Data is a good source. Do you have any others that you recommend?
Talk to me. Reach out to me. All right, we have tons of people that can put you in touch with that. But then, not only getting the data, but executing on that campaign. Right. So having the information is one thing, but how do I monetize that information? Well, you've got to reach out to it and solicit it, usually multiple times, right? Yeah. So like taking a Del Cerro farm and uploading it to Facebook so that you can have an online presence and market to those people on Facebook, and then building a community page and doing, consistent mailing, calling, and God forbid farmers markets in the area, right? You're hitting them from all land, sea, and air. You're inescapable.
That's great.
Right? You're inescapable. Wherever they go, there you are. That's how you want to be in real estate, because you never know where the next deal's coming from.
Very good. That's some really good insight. Because there's no way you're going to throw out a couple postcards and get business. Yeah. But when you have a long-term strategy in place and you have the data, like I want you to think about what you just said, because a lot of the more experienced agents already know this, but for some of the newer people, he's got connections to get you all the data you need to get all the business you can possibly handle. So you can, like he was saying, you can pick a neighborhood or pick a niche, right? Short sales, you want to go after NODs, you want to go after tax stuff, probates, there's all sorts of different things, and he's got access to all of that data. It doesn't cost you anything. All he asks is that you work with him on your transactions, and I'd say that's probably pretty fair. What are you seeing people winning with right now?
So, like, let's say that you're targeting 1,000 homes in La Mesa, and you're dripping on them once a month, evidence of success, Padre schedule, something warm, something to develop the relationship side, something to have a production side where they know you're doing business. That's great, but I always like to take what I call the farm within the farm. So you have this database of 1,000 homes that you've been hitting repeatedly. There's usually about 5 to 10% that fall into a default or an expired or for sale by owner or a divorce or probate or tax default or mortgage late scenario, okay? So these are all categories that qualify them as higher likelihood listing candidates, right?
Of course.
So that's the farm within the farm, right? You have the ones you're branding on because there's things you can't account for in data. Like they got pregnant and they need a bigger house. You can't find that data, right? So you need to drip on them so you're top of mind. But you can go and pull divorce leads, and 80% of divorces list their home. So is that a good real estate lead? Absolutely. Now you can't knock and say, hey, congratulations on the divorce.
Right.
80% sell, so I'm here to list your house.
Yeah.
Let's do this, right?
Yeah, it's all in the presentation. We talk about that a lot.
Yeah, but you want to be hitting them with greater frequency and different than you're hitting your regular farm people, right? So that because if we've identified them as the highest likelihood candidate to list their home, then we need to be hitting them up to get that right now business. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of wins with that. And get with me on letters or templates or scripting, because it's important. It's a delicate scenario, but it is the business of death and divorce.
Right.
So we have to be able to grapple with that and make sense of it.
And a lot of those gurus that you're following also teach further expansion on all those different niches.
Yeah.
And now that we've got our plan together, we've got our plan on paper, we've got the data that we need, what are the tips on how to make the conversions? How do they approach? How do they convert? And how do they turn that into business?
So now that we have the data, we've identified the who, we have to identify the outreach campaigns, how we're going to get our message to that audience, okay? And I mean, the phone, the voice-to-voice is the best way to land the face-to-face, right? And consistency is the word that I would harp on the most, because you can throw out 20,000 postcards and maybe you get a piece of business, maybe you don't. But I'd rather see you throw out 1,000 cards for 20 months. Because eventually something's going to hit and you will have branded yourself, right? I don't want you to run out and call 200 people a day for a week and burn yourself out. Call 20 people 3 times a week for 52 weeks, right? Because it allows yourself, you give yourself the opportunity to implement consistently and do activities that move the needle on a consistent basis. Then it can waterfall and all that effort can turn into results. But a lot of people make the mistake of going to a real estate seminar and they walk out fired up for like 6 months, or maybe 3 months, maybe 6 weeks, and then they just drop everything and you find them in the same place they were before the seminar. So tips is, call, voice to voice, face to face, direct mail, have a great online footprint, because these days everybody goes and searches you online. What is Oliver up to? What's he doing? Oh, he's got a family. He looks like a good guy. He's a surfer. He's an artist, right? There's more depth to Oliver than meets the eye, and so that people are looking you up whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not. So have a good online footprint, but it's a contact sport. So whether you make those contacts on the phone, or you make those contacts at the door, or you go to small businesses in your farm, or you go to local professionals in your farm that can refer you people, you gotta contact people. What I always recommend is have different categories, assign numbers to those categories, and then make them metrics in your business and just hit your metrics. because it takes the emotion and the brain out of it. I just have to hit my numbers and I'm done. And I can go golfing. I have to hit my numbers and I can go surfing, right? It just kind of dumbs it down and just check boxes. That's what I recommend.
So most of the people that are winning with the data that they're getting, are they pounding the phones? Are they knocking the doors? Are they doing the mailings? Or is it yes to everything?
Well, I mean, obviously we only have 24 hours in a day. And for those of you with families, you want to spend time with loved ones, right? So we've got to be efficient with our time. First thing is kill the noise. Get out of the Monday morning quarterbacking and all the social media, because everybody's been sucked into that Facebook vortex, right? I try to delegate as much of that stuff as possible to my assistant. When you're working for an hour, you haven't worked until you've talked to potential money-making clients. Okay, all you've done is shuffle papers or fiddle with your email inbox. You need to talk to people about real estate to make money in real estate, right? So if you're talking about nailing down one thing, there's so many things that you can do to make money in real estate. I guess the hot tip that we were gonna get to is circle dialing. You know, I tell people every piece of sold or listing that you did in 16, let's call 50 neighbors around it to build business in 2017. It establishes further in where we've already done business, and you have a story to tell. If I sold the Anderson home 4 doors down, I can tell that story to 50 people in direct proximity of that home, and I've got something to talk about because I lived through that transaction, right? And that's what conveys is people, we're all humans, we enjoy human stories. Tell the story of the transaction, and I promise you, if the timing's right, people will hit you up to sell their homes as well.
That's a really great piece of advice, especially the going back to your previous transactions. That was actually the next question on my list here, was how do they tips for marketing their listings? But what you just said is kind of a tip for marketing their listings and for going back to previous transactions, because it is all about having that story to tell, right? So now you're not just some person that's calling, you're the guy that's calling with the story about the house that they've probably walked by 100 times, driven by 100 times. They might know the people that live there.
Yeah.
So how would you say that they can leverage that further to market their current listing? How can they leverage a title rep in that scenario to help them sell it faster, get referrals, things like that?
Oh, that's a great question. And I look at it as a pre-marketing opportunity. So about 60% of my clients have worked with me long enough to know that they call me 2 weeks before the listing goes live, but they've got it signed, right? So we can pre-market. You know, coming soon campaigns, and here's a free tip for you. Coming soon is by far the most successful campaign to getting listing appointments. So you talk about, hey, Oliver, you know, this is Ryan at Big Block Realty, and we have one coming up in your area, and as a service to my seller, I really like to reach out to the neighbors to see if you know of anybody who wants to buy our upcoming listing. And it is going to be the newest listing, so we know what the market's doing here. What's your timetable for selling? And if you did that times 100 people around the coming soon, you think you might run into a lead?
Probably.
Absolutely. And you're benefiting the seller because you might get a buyer before it even goes live, right? You're not going to have to settle for all those low bids by all the investors around town, right?
Yeah.
Which we love, of course.
We do love them.
And and you never know, because it's about timing, and sometimes you're just the right guy at the right time.
Exactly.
But you don't get to be lucky like that unless you put yourself in position to be lucky. And making that phone call is what I'm talking about.
That was really good, really good, and your closing question was beautiful. Can you give that to me one more time? What's your timeline for closing?
What's your timetable for selling your home?
What's your timetable for selling your home? What a perfect question to end with. Very non-threatening, and you're probably going to get a pretty realistic answer. So that's...
Yeah, and if the job transfer is coming up in the springtime, they're going to let you know. Mm-hmm. Or if they're going to die in the house, they're going to tell you that too, right? Exactly. And you just wish them luck, and there you go.
Okay, so you're giving away some really good stuff so far, and I got to ask you, because I know that you work with a ton of realtors all over San Diego and beyond. What's the best marketing strategy that you've seen kind of working right now? Just sold or open house promotion. Coming soon just happens to be the hot button for whatever reason. I think it's a glimpse into like insider info. Exactly. So it kind of stirs something in the human animal that wants to ask questions. It's the curiosity factor. But if you do the Coming Soon campaign and then add to it a radius boost on Facebook,
Those two seem to work really well hand in hand because, again, we're all on Facebook. And when you're hitting them on the phone, you get that voice to voice. You never know when you're gonna hit them right at the right time.
Yes.
Right. Somebody just unfortunately passed away, or a baby's on the way, or a job transfer's coming through, or they're being transferred in the military. It's impossible to tabulate all those scenarios. So you just have to do your part consistently and hope you run into them.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah.